Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 18 of Play by Play, the daily wrestling podcast with me, your host, Atif Nawaz. And it's just me, your host, Atif Nawaz, today. I'm afraid I couldn't get a hold of Armand Kirmani. He's busy traveling through Europe on his way for his movie shoot. I guess he's very excited about that. And he's doing well. We've had a little bit of communication, but sadly, he cannot join me on the podcast today. So it's just going to be me. And let me start the podcast, as always, by thanking our friends, our partners at eWrestlingNews.com. eWrestling News is a fantastic website where you can go to find all the news you need about what's happening in the world of professional wrestling or sports entertainment, if that's what you like to call it. I don't judge. Also, a big shout out to our friends at TopRopePress.com. Those guys are awesome. They've got a wonderful website. Check it out. Loads of news, columns, articles, everything you want, and a lovely banner for play-by-play on the right-hand side. So make sure you check that out as well. Today's show, guys and girls, is going to involve a chat about WWE Studios, which was formerly known as WWE Films. And we're going to talk specifically about some of the projects that have come out of WWE Studios, what have been some of the memorable moments, what kind of films we'd like to see coming out of WWE Studios. Because I don't know about you guys, but when I was young, I loved the idea of seeing some of these superstars that I watch once a week being in a movie. So why haven't they managed to really hit a proper home run yet? I mean, they did, but ironically, that was with a film that didn't really center around a WWE superstar. We'll get to it. But first, I just want to talk about some of the reaction I got to yesterday's podcast, which centered on my kind of hypothesis that Daniel Bryan would make an excellent Intercontinental Champion, along the lines of Shinsuke Nakamura in New Japan Pro Wrestling, where the champion made the championship so valuable, so prestigious that it could headline a pay-per-view that even featured a match for the World Heavyweight Championship. So I wasn't trying to put Bryan down. I was trying to use Bryan as a main event level talent and get him to push the championship or take the championship up with him a few notches. So that's what I was suggesting. I had some interesting feedback as well. I've got to say, one of our frequent collaborators, Mr. Rich Latter II, Danger Rich 32 on Twitter, he tweeted us to say, Bryan as IC champ could be like Nakamura. Wow, you just said that as I typed it, lol. So, great minds thinking alike there, I'd like to think. Obviously, Rich Latter, he writes for What Culture, so you can check out his excellent pieces there about professional wrestling. So I'm glad that other people are following that train of thought as well, and they see that logic. So that gives me hope that people on the booking committee, the writers at WWE, and ultimately Vince McMahon can see the value of that without really devaluing Daniel Bryan. Let's not get it messed up. Glenn Abbott, who's also one of our favorite contributors here at Play by Play, he tweeted in to say, great idea to make Daniel Bryan Intercontinental Champion. Could have him main event SummerSlam at Wembley as a memorial match for the British Bulldog. Now that is fantastic, Glenn. You brought together so many things, and as regular listeners to Play by Play will know, we've been campaigning for SummerSlam, the WWE's biggest pay-per-view event of the summer, maybe one of the original Big Four, we can call it. And we wanted to see that pay-per-view come back to London. The last time they had a pay-per-view in the UK, a proper pay-per-view, a SummerSlam-like pay-per-view in the UK, was SummerSlam 1992, and it was a huge success. 88,000 people turned up, legit. So that was a huge crowd. And we don't see it over the years. The legacy of that event has been felt. There's so many people my age and above who still watch professional wrestling in the UK. TNA Impact has a lot of fans in the UK as well. They consider them one of the biggest fan bases. I mean, WWE recently went past 1 million subscribers on the WWE network, and they attributed a lot of that kind of getting over the final stretch momentum to the WWE's fan base in the UK and Ireland, because it just opened up subscriptions to them. So getting back to the point we made several weeks ago, I think SummerSlam, which homecoming for SummerSlam here in London at the new Wembley Stadium, would be incredible, something that British fans could really get behind, something European fans, even American fans, they absolutely love it. I know there's some challenges in play, but if you really think about it, they've got an excellent opportunity here, and what a great way to thank the WWE fans in the UK for their contribution to taking WWE's latest pet project, the WWE Network, where they want to go. So I think it would be fantastic. I'm sure loads of people feel the same way. And if you want to support that cause, please get that hashtag out there. SummerSlam to Wembley is the hashtag, SummerSlam to Wembley. And this all sort of came about when it emerged that WWE was losing its original venue for SummerSlam this year, which was going to be the Izod Center, but that's closing down now. They just had the most recent event there. In fact, Chris Jericho was at a house show that was one of the last events to be held at the Izod Center. So that was scheduled to hold SummerSlam in the New York, New Jersey area. But with that out of the picture, I'm sure the officials in New York are looking for a different replacement venue within that area. But I really think it's a great chance for WWE to think out of the box, out of the country, out of the continent, bring it to the UK. We've got some of the smartest, aggressive, passionate fans here. Wembley Stadium holds 90,000 people. 90,000 people can fit in that stadium. And that's for a football match, for a soccer match for my American friends, okay? I mean, I'm sure they'd have to rejig it a little bit for the set, but what are we looking at? They could probably still pull 85, maybe they could still pull 90. I have no idea. They could pull a huge crowd, that's for sure. And, you know, that's in pounds as well. So a favorable exchange rate helps WWE's cause there as well. And a lot of people talk about the time difference, but yeah, I mean, I think nowadays, especially with pay-per-views moving to on demand, I don't think a Sunday afternoon in America time slot is that bad. I think actually most people would go for that. If it's Sunday afternoon and you're aiming for a PG audience anyway, surely that kind of fits the mold, you know, that kind of works. And the novelty, the amazing visual you'd get of WWE being in the UK for SummerSlam, all the Raws that they have in the UK have amazing crowds on them as well. So I think it's a no-brainer, WWE. If anybody's listening and has a contact with WWE, push that idea to them. That's all I really want. I don't even want a job with WWE. I do, but what I want more than that is SummerSlam to be in the UK. And just on the subject of things that are going to be in the UK, big shout out to the guys at TNA Wrestling, TNA Impact Wrestling. All the stars of that are going to be in the UK this week, in fact. So the 28th, 29th, and 30th, 31st, sorry, I beg your pardon. So they're going to be in Glasgow, Manchester, and Wembley in the UK. So go see them. They're going to be great. I had a lovely chat with Bobby Lashley, which I've mentioned a few times. You can see that interview on YouTube as well. It's on Media Spotlight UK's page. You can also find it if you go down the tweets on PlayByPlay's Twitter. You could probably find it there as well. It's a really fun, interesting interview. And thank you, Bobby Lashley, for the shout out for PlayByPlay as well. What a great guy. So many insights there. He wants Brock Lesnar. Can you believe it? Pro wrestling or MMA. He'll take it either way. Amazing stuff. Guys and girls, I'm going to get into our big topic of the day in a second, which is WWE Studios. But before I do that, I just want to remind you all that this podcast is always a conversation. It's always based on things you guys want to hear, you guys want us to discuss. So make sure you get all those thoughts and messages to us. You can Twitter us. You can tweet us, I beg your pardon, on Twitter. Yeah, you tweet on Twitter, obviously. Okay. At PlayByPlay123. You can email us. Questions at playbyplay123.co.uk. And you can always get us on the Facebook as well, which is facebook.com/playbyplaywrestling. Check that out. It's good fun. I promise you, get involved. We've got a really fun community that all likes to talk to each other and has their own crazy opinions. Iron Man thought it was a great idea for Roman Reigns to win the way he did at the Royal Rumble. You know what I mean? And I didn't. So we've all got our opinions here, and we love your opinions as well. And just throwing them in the mix, it just gives us something to talk about. So get involved. Make sure you stay a part of the conversation. Now then, WWE Studios. It was Vince McMahon's project. He'd wanted to do this for a long time. I don't know if you've seen Beyond the Mat or the Wrestling with Shadows documentaries, but there's interviews in both of those documentaries with Vince McMahon. I don't remember which of the two it was, but there's a shot of Vince sitting there in his office talking to the interviewer saying, "We make movies." Then he takes a really long pause, takes a huge gulp of water from his bottle, and then comes back and says, "Every week we make movies." So to Vince McMahon, the product that he delivers every week on television in America, in the UK, all around the world, right? Monday Night Raw, he always thinks of that as like a 2-hour movie. And it's always highlighted some of those, you know, kind of more action-based skits, the backstage skits that are more dramatic than the things that often happen in the squared circle. That's what he kind of highlights. So it was really a fantasy for Vince McMahon to get involved in the film business. And, you know, back in the day, even though it wasn't WWE Studios at the time, in 1989, they produced a film called No Holds Barred, right? Which I think you can watch on the WWE Network. I'm not sure. Either that, or you can I know you can definitely get a hold of No Holds Barred on DVD. So if you really want to check that out, do it. It might be on Netflix in America. I don't know. It's not on Netflix in the UK. But yeah, so No Holds Barred was the first real film. It didn't do the kind of numbers they wanted it to do, and it put them off film for a very, very long time, until all the way through to 2012. when WWE officially formed a film division. Sorry, 2012. Sorry, I meant 2002 when WWE officially formed a film division, and their first project was going to be a film called The Marine, but that had to slow down a little bit because of production. But it was going to star Stone Cold Steve Austin. So The Marine was going to star Stone Cold Steve Austin. He then famously had a disagreement with WWE, and that role was going to go to Kurt Angle. So Kurt Angle was going to be the Marine. And he also had some issues with WWE, mostly relating to him being released due to injury. So he got out of there. And then anyway, in the end, Mr. John Cena, who is now the big man on the block, that was back in 2006 when The Marine was released. So John Cena was the star of the first major film, but that was beaten to the box office, but to the cinema screens to release by Kane's See No Evil. So the film See No Evil, the horror film starring Kane, was the first to be released in cinemas by WWE studios in this kind of second form. And it did reasonably well. It did well at the box office. It made a little bit of money. It didn't make huge sums of money, but it made a little bit of money, enough to get WWE interested. So they were still releasing movies in the cinemas at the time. They got The Marine out next. The Marine didn't do very good numbers in the cinemas. It did okay numbers, but it didn't make its money back. Where it did make its money back, and then some, was on DVD and Blu-ray. So the home media market was what WWE quickly realized it was going to help them. They wanted one more go at getting the film, getting their films into a theatrical environment. So getting them a proper release in the cinemas. So they did that with their biggest legacy star, Stone Cold Steve Austin. They gave him a movie called The Condemned, right? Now, I watched The Condemned. I remember it getting horrible reviews when it came out. People said it was a ripoff of The Running Man. It was a ripoff of Battle Royale from Korea. I don't dispute either of those things, but I do also say that The Condemned was actually kind of fun. It's a fun movie. Are you really expecting Citizen Kane from a WWE film? You're not going to get it, okay? You're going to get something different. And I thought Steve Austin was fantastic. Vinnie Jones, who UK fans will remember fondly, he's in the film as well. So it was a perfectly decent film, but for its audience. But obviously something went wrong, and it didn't make the kind of money it was expected to make. In fact, it bombed at the box office, and that had long-lasting consequences for WWE films, whereby they'd only really release one or two films in the cinemas after that. I think it was only 12 Rounds, the next John Cena film that they made, which was released into the cinemas. And it didn't do too well in the cinemas, but again, it did all right on a home media release. So since then, WWE kind of churned out loads of films. None of them did substantially well, so well that they could call WWE Studios a success. So, I mean, they released Behind Enemy Lines Colombia. They got The Marine 2 out very quickly, starring Ted DiBiase. They had legendary Knucklehead, The Chaperone, That's What I Am, Inside Out, The Reunion, Bending the Rules with Edge, which I thought was kind of fun as well. The Day, which they didn't have any stars in. It was just a distribution thing for them. Barricade. They even released The Marine 3 with The Miz. Dead Man Down with Wade Barrett alongside Colin Farrell. I was going to say Colin Firth. He would never do a WWE Studios film, but Colin Farrell and Terrence Howard. So Oscar-nominated actors there, and an Oscar winner, in fact. So they're getting Wade Barrett in the mix there. But even right there, all the way through to 2013, WWE in its stockholders report and the shareholders report was still announcing a loss on WWE Studios. And I think the phrase was impairment charge, which is a bit weird. Impairment charge, really? But that's what they called it. And they didn't really make any money properly until they released a film called The Call. The Call was like this psychological thriller starring Halle Berry, of course, who was very, very popular, big movie star. It had a small, tiny role for David Otunga. Is David Otunga still with WWE, by the way? Because I never see him anywhere. I haven't seen him on TV for ages. What's David Otunga doing? Somebody give me an update on David Otunga. But anyway, so he was in this film as well. And it was the first film to make a substantial amount of money. I think it was made in a budget of 9, 10, 11 million, something like that. But it grossed upwards of 50 million. So WWE made a substantial profit on that film. And they were thrilled. And they're really happy with that. So they're even talking about a sequel to The Call being made. So look forward to that at some point. And around the same time, we saw 12 Rounds 2, which Colt Cabana, hilariously calls 13 Rounds, originally offered to CM Punk, then ended up featuring Randy Orton. Brodus Clay, if you guys remember him, he did a film called No One Lives. The Miz did a few straight to DVD films, straight to TV films. One was called Christmas Bounty, which was a TV film. And the other one was the Marine 3, of course. Then WWE did this interesting partnership with Warner Brothers, where they did the Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, which I watched with my nephew. We both, it was okay, it was fine. If I'm watching it with a kid, I'm fine. By myself, it would be a bit, I wouldn't feel comfortable sitting there watching Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery by myself. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either. I see what they were doing there. I see what they were doing. Now, I've got to confess, I haven't seen See No Evil 2 yet, but in fact, I've not heard much about it, but I know it's been made by the Soska sisters, and they've got some interesting credentials. I've not seen Queens of the Ring either, which apparently features appearances from The Miz, CM Punk, and Eve Torres. But I did, however, sadly, watch Jingle All the Way 2, which starred Larry the Cable Guy and Santino Marella. Now, the weirdest thing about this film, Jingle All the Way 2, is Santino puts on like a Southern accent. It's so weird. Apparently, it's not even his normal accent. Isn't the one he puts on TV, obviously, but he's not even exaggerating on TV for Raw. He's doing like a weird, out there Italian wannabe accent. In this film, he does a Southern accent that sounds so normal. It's kind of disconcerting when you watch. It's almost worth watching just for Santino's accent, but only if you can handle Larry the Cable Guy's humor, because it's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm looking forward to some projects WWE Studios have coming out. The Fall Guy remake, which they're going to make with The Rock. That'll be the first time The Rock is going to be in an official WWE Studios film. So that's very exciting. I'm looking forward to that. Now, a lot of people know I'm a big fan of Dean Ambrose, so I'm very excited about Dean Ambrose being in a WWE Studio film. It's called Lockdown. So that sounds quite interesting. In fact, I think it's got Dean Cain in it as well. No, sorry, Dean Cain is in Vendetta with The Big Show. So that'll be a heck of a film. Dean Cain, some of you might remember, was Superman on television. So that's pretty cool. The Big Show's in Vendetta. Dean Ambrose is in Lockdown. And those two action films are the first two in something called the Action Six-Pack series. So there's going to be loads more of those coming. The Condemned 2 is going to be coming out soon as well at some point this year. It's given the title Desert Prey. I don't know what that has to do with anything, but yeah, the Condemned 2 Desert Prey is coming out, and Randy Orton's going to be in that again. Hulk Hogan is going to be in a film called Killing Hasselhoff. No idea. Hoping it's a documentary. And we're also going to see the Condemned 3, by the way. So they've confirmed they're going to make a Condemned 3. They haven't even released the Condemned 2 yet, but they're so confident in this franchise. They're going to have a Condemned 3, and that's going to star The Miz. I find it very odd that The Miz, even though he's kind of being played down on television, I know it's his character that he's like this Hollywood guy, but he's certainly not the most over character on television, not even close, not even the top 10, 15, 50%, I would say at the moment. The Miz isn't there yet. He's managed to get himself in this position where WWE Studios are very comfortable giving him his own franchise. He's the Marine now. He was in the Marine 3, and he's going to be in the Marine 4. He's also apparently going to be in the Condemned 3. He was in that other the other film, Christmas Bounty, which WWE co-produced. So he's all over WWE Studios. They have a lot of faith in The Miz, and to be honest, I'm not entirely sure why. So yeah, I mean, there you have it. That's kind of what's coming up. They've also got 2 more animated films coming through as well. There's going to be another Scooby-Doo WrestleMania Mystery, which will happen next year. This year, just after WrestleMania, just before, they're going to have the Flintstones and WWE in something called Stone Age SmackDown. No idea what to expect. Not looking forward to it, but we'll definitely watch it at some point, probably with my nephew, and I'll report back to you guys about what I thought of it. And yeah, so... the Jetsons and WWE as well. So they're really going after these old school Warner Brothers franchises, these cartoon franchises like the Flintstones, the Jetsons, and Scooby-Doo. So maybe the Simpsons and Family Guy at some point. Now, I don't think WWE is comfortable mixing up with that kind of satire. I had some fun tweets actually about WWE films, so I'll read some out if you'll permit me. LK Wrestling Reviews, who are at LK Wrestling on Twitter, they said they really liked The Condemned. It was a decent film and suited Austin perfectly. And you know what? I can't disagree with that. Absolutely. Austin would make a great movie star if he was given that on a regular basis. I guess The Rock had the look and the timing. I always did wonder initially why The Rock was so successful in Hollywood, whereas Steve Austin, even though Steve Austin did quite a few films, they tended to be straight to DVD films. And when he did the mainstream Hollywood films, he was always a second-tier player. So he was in The Expendables, and he had a small role in Grown Ups, and He was in that film, the Longest Yard, as well, where he played a racist prison guard. And I didn't like that. Stone Cold Steve Austin, it doesn't make sense, man. I don't know who wrote that for him, but Stone Cold Steve Austin is a beloved figure. You know, he's like, as he says himself, he's a borderline national treasure. So you can't book him in a movie as like a despicable heel. It doesn't work, really. Steve Austin is too beloved. But what I would love to see at some point, I don't know if this makes sense just to me or if you guys could get behind this, but I'd love to see The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin in a movie together, possibly opposing each other. I'm thinking like Aliens versus Predator or something, but with The Rock versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. You can pick who's the heel, who's the face. I don't care. But I'd love to see them in a film together. I don't know if it makes sense for The Rock at this point. I'm sure Steve Austin would be up for it. I mean, he's just turned 50 recently, but obviously he's in great shape, and a lot of the, you know, even though he lived it quite fast and hard, he looks after himself. He's on TV regularly on country music television. So if I was WWE, I'd try and, obviously they're trying to do more with The Rock, with the Fall Guy remake, but I think there's a lot more to be done with Austin as well, and that's not restricted to podcasts. Austin's doing well, and he's learning with each of his films. He's building more of a range. I'd just like to see him do more. And I'm just gutted people like Bret Hart didn't get to do more. So I would have thought Bret Hart would make a pretty good actor. Shawn Michaels would be pretty good, you'd imagine, from back in the day. And they haven't done that much work. I mean, Bret Hart was on a series called Lonesome Dove, which is like a cowboy series. If you've never seen it, I think this clip's on YouTube. It's interesting enough. But yeah, he showed a few glimpses of potential. But anyway, back to WWE Studios films. I think there's so much opportunity. I like that they're throwing Dean Ambrose straight into a film of his own. That'll be a really good indication of how strong the fan base behind him is. They use that time so well when he was written off television. He went off, did the film. According to him, it was only like a 10-day schedule, so he didn't have to be committed to it for a long time. He could do the film and come back and just jump straight in the mix with WWE. So that's fantastic. I'd like to see WWE use more of these stars that fans are so passionate about, especially when they get little layoffs, or when they get little breaks, so they can be written off TV for a couple of weeks. Someone like a Dolph Ziggler, Daniel Bryan, Dean Ambrose, he's got one already. But how about Seth Rollins at some point getting a movie, you know, or even Damien Mizdow? I mean, these are all characters that people can get behind. And if WWE is managing to slash their budgets on some of the films by making them direct to DVD, and comedy generally doesn't have to be as expensive as action, so they could cheat the system there. So there's a lot there for WWE to work with. I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these films. There's Mark Henry is going to be in a film as well, apparently, at some point, called Incarnate. So there's a lot to come, and it's getting better. I think WWE's learning. They've kind of put their foot in the film world. They haven't overexposed themselves too much. They've taken bigger risks with WWE Network recently, and I guess that's really where the priority lies. But if they are going to keep making films, I'll watch them from time to time, and if they can deliver great ones, even better. It's a shame CM Punk's not around. He didn't get a chance to do his own film. Maybe that would have kept him happier. I don't know. But I think WWE Films or WWE Studios could be a real asset, a real boon for the company going forward. Maybe it could. It's got to be booked properly, like the rest of WWE. Anyway, guys and girls, we're nearly out of time. I want to get your thoughts on this as well. Make sure you tweet us. What did you like? What do you like about WWE Studios? Which was your favorite film? Which films did you not like? Do you think they should be making films at all? Which of their future slate of films do you think will be a hit? Are you looking forward to The Call 2, The Marine 17? What is it that you're looking forward to? What is it that you think, anything at all about WWE Films or WWE Studios? So get in touch on Twitter at PlayByPlay123, on email questions at playbyplay123.co.uk, and you can hit us up on Facebook as well, facebook.com/playbyplaywrestling. Now, just before we go, I'm going to give you a brand new Dean Douglas of the Day question and match of the day as well. Now, for question of the day, I tell you, I've really been enjoying this WWE Network because I love this series on WWE Network called The Monday Night War. It's fantastic. There's so much interesting information for them to work with, and they really do work with it. They've built this beautiful series, and some of the episodes are a little bit samey, but some of those moments are so iconic, you just got to see them over and over again. So my question relates to one of the earlier years, or one of the more eventful years of the Monday Night Wars, is 1997. In November 1997, there was one wrestler who held the distinction of being on both Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro at the same time. I'll repeat that for you. In November 1997, there was a wrestler or a personality, let's say, there's a clue in that was on both Monday Night Raw and Monday Nitro at the same time. Name that wrestler. There you go. The term personality should have helped you. He is a wrestler for sure, but let's put it this way: he wasn't wrestling in either of those appearances. But he was on TV. So I want that answer, boys and girls. Who's gonna be the dean of the day on tomorrow's show? Whomever can answer that question correctly. And before I go, I'm gonna give you a match of the day as well because I'm feeling very generous. And I'm gonna give you one of my all-time favorite matches: Bret the Hitman Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin, WrestleMania 13. That was good booking. That was smart, and that involved a double turn. Hint, hint, WWE. Hint, hint, Brock Lesnar. Hint, hint, Roman Reigns. A double turn, which was done superbly. Perfect use of blood in a match as well. And it ended up creating probably the biggest superstar in the history of this industry in Stone Cold Steve Austin. So, yeah, WrestleMania 13. It was 1997 as well. Check it out. Bret the Hitman Hart versus Stone Cold Steve Austin. Amazing match. And that's today's match of the day. And I, ladies and gentlemen, am done. Make sure you get in touch. I've got an excellent episode coming for you tomorrow. Hopefully, I'll have another guest joining me on the show as well. But I'm not going to make any promises until I've got it booked this time. I've learned my lesson. Thanks so much for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay in touch. Join us tomorrow for episode 19. And until then, ciao.